Hey everyone, before we get started, I've got a little bit of an announcement to make. We have a new podcast joining the Deus Ex Media Network. Of previous guests and friends of the podcast, and also fellow creators just in general, Charlie from Of the Eldest Gods and Robert, who has hosted a variety of podcasts and guested on here before, have created their own podcast covering Steven Universe called The Bits. You'll hear the trailer at the end, but I just wanted to let you know before we get started that that podcast is now out. They've released their first episode. Go and check it out. I'm experiencing Steven Universe for the first time through this podcast, so I'm really excited to listen to it. Go and check it out wherever you get podcasts and also on the Deus Ex Media website. On to the episode.
A podcast to honor the gods.
This better come with a sacrifice.
Deus Ex Media.
Content and Capable acknowledges the Indigenous people on the land on which we record this podcast, the Turungurung people. We offer our respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Sovereignty was never ceded. Welcome to Content and Capable, where the last time I recorded a podcast, I wasn't wearing glasses, and now I'm wearing glasses, and I don't know what to do with myself. Glasses are weird. Someone get this weird frame thingy off my face. I'm Sam, I'm your host, and this week I'm joined with the hosts of Completely Arbortrary, Casey and Alex. Hi, Casey and Alex.
Hello. Hey, Sam. How you doing?
I'm living the dream. Outside smells like wood fire smoke. Winter has somehow come early, to the point where I might just go and drive up and see the snow at this point. Because who when they live near a ski field doesn't go and have a look at the snow?
Exactly. And I should also note, you look smashing in glasses.
Yes, they fit you perfectly.
It's a weird thing where I've always felt weird about having things on my face. Mm-hmm. So this has been a bit of transition, and I haven't recorded a podcast for a few weeks, which is why this might sound a little bit awkward and rusty, to be honest.
Not at all.
This is the greatest thing. I went traveling for three weekends in a row. Like, I still worked back home, but then I went out and I traveled and did bits and pieces. So then I've not recorded an episode. The greatest thing about pre-recording is what the listeners don't know.
Yes.
But yeah, it's pretty awesome. Casey and Alex, do you just want to quickly give a bit of a rundown of who you are and what your podcast is about?
I would love to. Alex, would you like to go first?
Well, sure. My name's Alex. This is Casey.
Hi.
Say hello.
I'm Casey.
We have a podcast called Completely Arbortrary, where we talk about trees and other related topics. So each episode, we select a species of tree from around the world, and we spend about 90 minutes or so, if we can get away with it.
If we can.
Sometimes. Talking about that tree, and then telling kind of a story about some related topic, like history or food or... those are the two that I really latch on to.
Those are Alex's favorite, for sure. Yeah. Well, I'm Casey Clapp, and I am an arborist we're in Portland, Oregon, and Alex is a good friend of mine from many, many years ago, and whenever I come up with some creative idea, I tell him about it, and he usually is like, yeah, that's a great idea. And this one time... we were both like, this sounds great, let's do it. So we started this podcast, and I, before this, was an arborist working for the city of Portland, Oregon. And I was doing a lot of regulation, and I work with trees in every way that one can work with trees. So I kind of took a pivot to get all the knowledge and kind of fun things that I like about trees out to the world. And Alex was into it as a bona fide tree skeptic, which is fun. Mm-hmm. I get to convince him every week why trees are really cool, and also get to talk about the things that I love, which is not only history and food viewed in mythology, but how trees relate to happiness and your enjoyment of the outdoors and fungus and animals and other trees and the dynamics of everything you name in this world. They're all other related topics. So I could probably figure out a way to say, you know how trees are related to that, and then talk about that for approximately 90 minutes.
We do it every week.
It's like a really good game of there's a game where you just try to like talk about something without saying or It's like a really good game.
Oh yeah,
where you just connect everything to trees the whole time.
I don't think I could do that without doing or ah. I would lose that game so fast.
Yeah, I don't think you can do let's not do two things at once here.
No,
but
yeah, not this time.
Of all things, being an arborist in Portland almost feels stereotypical because of obviously the Pacific Northwest. Like,
yeah,
I don't know, like with being so close to the Pacific Northwest, is it easy to be a fan of trees because you are so close to some really beautiful forests?
Yeah, honestly, I'll answer for myself, but this is a really good question for Alex because I have been kind of noticing and looking and being around trees for so long that my answer is like, absolutely. That's half the reason I haven't, left without coming back. But Alex has not had the same kind of experience with trees as I have, growing up, or at least in our college years.
Yeah.
So I think that'd be a good one for Alex to touch on.
Yeah, well, Casey and I are uniquely sort of two sides of the same Portlander coin, where Casey is the tree climbing coffee snob.
Go drive out to the woods,
And I am the opinionated hipster.
Yes.
And so trees are not something I really focused on for the first 33 years of my life.
It was funny how you have that timing known exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, it was once I started really opening my eyes and seeing what's unique and special about the Pacific Northwest, even from Northern California up, it was like, wow, this is a really special place. And I love a big tree, so being able to drive in any direction for at least a little while and be, surrounded by things that are massive and have nobody else near them, whether or not they've been there for, a couple 100,000 years, whatever it is, it's nice to look and just kind of be one with a bunch of things, because this is a smaller populated area than, say, the East Coast. So it's had a little bit less trammeled, maybe?
Trammeled.
Yes, that's the term. Untrammeled by man is
Not
the
trampled.
definition of a wilderness out here.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a little bit white-centric, though, because everyone will remind you that there has been people in these forests for thousands of years, so untrammeled by man doesn't ever quite mean anything, but I get what they're getting at.
Anyway. Yeah, I took trees for granted for a very long time because they were just sort of like a part of my environment. And then it was only when we started this podcast that I started learning about them, and then I kind of started to appreciate them more, certainly.
Nice. Which is the goal.
Yeah, no, it's it's a very similar setup, I think, here on Australia's East Coast. I think especially because all of our population is so close to the coast, especially in like big cities like Sydney or Brisbane, especially, where you drive an hour west and you're, in the middle of nowhere, and you can, there's hiking trails, there's, mountain biking trails, there is a set of trails that run basically the length of the country. And,
Wow.
You can kind of go and go and explore any area of the country without really being impeded. And obviously, it's not been totally untouched, but it is, untouched by, a developer's hand.
Yes.
Say.
Yeah. I think that's probably the good distinction to add in there. Is like, people have been here in these places for so long where we lose track of it in our modern day, but the modern day kind of land sensibilities perhaps haven't completely decimated at all. So we've talked to a few people down in Australia and heard very similar things of all those mountains on the kind of east and southeast coast area, or I guess inland from the coast.
Yeah, it's like our version of, I almost want to say the Rockies, but the Rockies are obviously much bigger and much more significant. But we have what's called the Great Dividing Range.
Yes.
It's such an original name here. But it runs, that's what causes, the mountains that are high enough here for skiing and far south enough as well. But it runs as a natural border basically up the length of the country.
Wow.
And you have this really almost temperate and wet eastern side, and then not temperate, wet and a little bit more rainforesty, a little bit more. And then on the western side, you've got this more temperate, beautiful grasslands that are perfect for farming because there's this huge river valley that runs through the middle, and then you basically. People think that the whole of the country is desert, but a good third of the country from the east coast is habitable, really lovely land, and then you head into getting towards the delightful parts of the desert.
Yeah, that's funny. Ironically, in the opposite way, people think about Portland, or rather Oregon, the Pacific Northwest, is this verdant green landscape, and it's really just the furthest west third of the states of the region. As soon as you go kind of east of the Cascade Mountains, it's exactly similar to what you're talking about, where it just becomes really dry, high desert kind of situation.
Shrublands, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's always fun to have those people like, wow, the whole place is a desert, and you get there and you're like, well, this is so beautiful. And then the exact opposite thing up here. If you go further out, the whole thing is different.
That is interesting how those sort of things become popular opinion.
Yeah.
Australia is one big outback.
Yeah. Right?
But it actually is incredibly diverse.
Yeah, and I think that we also often conveniently forget that a country, especially spanning such a large area like Australia, but also places like Japan that go so far north and so far south, cross many different zones that change the way that the climate exists. So I'm at the southern part of the country. We're heading into winter, so it's cold and wet. And a little bit, it becomes a little bit drab and dreary. Up in the north of the country where I used to live, it's perfect temperate days. You could be wearing shorts and a t-shirt outside in the middle of winter. Literally rocked up. My parents live up that way. Literally rocked up to the airport, and I was like, you can tell you're in an airport in Queensland because everyone is wearing thongs. And it's awesome. So flip-flops for the Americans.
Yeah.
It's been...
I mean, maybe both. It is cold, you might, or it is warm. You might as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. And everyone up there is way more casual than we are down here.
Yeah.
But it's very fascinating, and it also kind of changes the way that the environment works. Obviously Australia is really well known for, say, their gum trees and bits and pieces, but down here alongside our gum trees are a whole bunch of deciduous trees that are in full color changing, and it's absolutely beautiful. And that's something I would never thought I would have seen here in Australia.
Wow, I gotta look into that.
What's an example of a Australian species that's a great deciduous tree?
Yeah.
I think a lot of them are introduced species, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, okay, sure.
A lot of poplars around,
Gotcha.
but a lot of them are from the similar climate regions around the world. California has a lot of gum trees hanging around, especially Southern California, because they're really drought resistant. They're really good at holding onto water. And so I think we've done kind of the same as well, especially as you head up towards the Pacific Northwest. A lot of those trees have ended up down here. There's some beautiful towns that are the road into town is lined with poplars that have turned yellow, and it's been absolutely beautiful.
Gotcha.
Gorgeous.
Always goes both ways. You always forget about that.
Yeah.
Our things go down there too.
That's
right. Always nice. I guess other than the radiata pine, we know about that one for sure.
Yes. So when you guys started the podcast, obviously, you wanted to share your love of trees. Was there something that you weren't expecting to kind of learn along the way?
Specifically about trees or just in general?
I think just in general,
Sure.
other than podcasting is hard and
right.
be careful, it's a trap.
It's a trap. You're going to do way too much work and only have a couple really good people that you're like, I'm doing this for you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, I can kind of speak for myself, but I think also Casey, and let me know. But
Yeah.
you know, Casey and I, this is a business, just as much as it is like art.
Yeah.
If I can deign to call it that, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
we do put out a weekly show that supports both of our livings.
Yeah.
That was the biggest learning curve for me, because I didn't know the first fucking thing about starting a business, much less maintaining a business through good times and hard times.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been and continues to be the sort of biggest kind of genre of lessons I learned from this show. Besides, you know, all the tree stuff, all of that's brand new to me.
Well, yeah, we got that. We got that locked down.
Yeah, but I've certainly learned a lot about trees.
Yes.
What about you, Case?
Let's see. I think the big thing for me, which is actually, it is certainly the situation where Alex learns a lot of tree things from me, because we're doing I'm teaching people about trees. He being the person who kind of is the one of us who makes sure that everything translates well to everyone else. One thing that I have learned is how to how much art and artistry comes into these things. I'm a scientific minded person. I'm also a communicator. I'm a science communicator. I've learned this, but the kind of more interesting, less artistic things never quite came to me. So like we have our Cone of the Month Club, which is a new cone every month for everyone who signs up on our Patreon. And
stickers.
Stickers, yes.
Yeah,
sorry,
we send them stickers in the mail of different species of cone.
Yeah, and Alex finds all of those artists to draw or paint or create this cone art, however it's going to come out. And I was like, how are you finding these people? And I was like, oh, they're just everywhere. And just had these artists like all over the place. And like we'd go have an idea about a photo shoot or a piece of merch or you name it. And Alex like filled up the entire podcast like with this visual aspect to it. So now we almost have this like this background of certain colors and artists and people and things that are representative of the show, but in a medium I was not even prepared to think about. Like, what's your logo going to look like? You know, how are you going to keep having new ideas for things to give away or to sell as merchandise? And Alex has just picked up that entire side of this. So anything that is a representation that you can see of our show is something that Alex brought into it that I never quite knew was such an important thing until Alex brought it up. And I'm like, oh, branding and keeping things interesting and all these kinds of ideas. Alex has this really particular eye for what looks good and what plays and kind of, this whole other visual side that I just don't have. And I learned that.
Thanks, Case. I appreciate that. I appreciate you saying that. And if I can just like see something in you, I don't mean to paint you psychologically or anything, but I think at the beginning of the show, because you're not like a creative professional or haven't been in the past, you are now. You had this mindset of like, oh, it's not that hard. We can just throw something together.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had the job of saying, well, no, there are like 20 steps to just getting this very simple thing done.
Yeah.
If we want to do it like good and professional. And I've definitely seen that change in you over time, that you have a much, like infinitely better grasp on like project scope.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah. So I've seen those lessons come to fruition in you, my boy.
Yes, we've learned both.
My sweet boy.
I've trained you well. It's such a fascinating part about creating not just a podcast, but I think any kind of communication. And I find this so often, especially I spend probably way too much time on TikTok where I'm a lot of business people are talking about how they just create a podcast on the side and you just throw it together.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I can probably assure that is like a piece of crap. Like, no, unless you're hiring a team or something to care about it for you, you're like not caring about it in the same way that say you guys are, or myself, or other, other podcasters around the world who, make it their brand, their identity, or part of their brand and part of their identity, and a significant part of that. And it's a very interesting thing. It's fascinating you mentioned science communication as well, because of all things, I almost went into science communication. Your background in science communication, Casey, how has that kind of changed the way that you talk about, obviously, quite a complex set of topics to an audience that, may not understand it completely?
Well, that's actually kind of the funny thing, is that I don't have a background in science communication. My background is in essentially just being an arborist. So my kind of focus and the thing that I've had on my that I've just put on the forefront of who I am has been arboriculture, urban forestry, and how trees work with themselves, with each other, with, everything around them, including people and pipes and cement and all that.
But Casey, when you say you don't have a background in science communication, you mean like formal, like you haven't been formally educated how to do this.
Exactly.
But you have a manufactured, you gave yourself a background by just like giving talks and stuff and having a really good personality.
I feel like most science communicators are accidentally science
communicators. Sam, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Whoops, I'm a science communicator.
Exactly. I feel that way so hard, you guys. Like that's exactly how I feel, is that, whoops, I'm now a science communicator. I slipped into that and here I am.
And you fit very well.
Yeah. So honestly, it's changed quite a bit because I kind of got into science education, which is just at the time tree education, where I'd teach a class on tree biology or tree risk assessment or tree identification, like everything that you could think that someone would need to be taught about. I would try to teach about trees, except for maybe really hardcore forestry things. I moved away from that after college. But I did, when I started the show with Alex, like my first couple ideas, I was just like, great, we're going to talk about this. And then I would just do it. But it wasn't very cohesive. We didn't have a structure. We didn't have necessarily an idea of where we're going to go and how we're going to get there.
The narrative arc.
Exactly.
That we've come to call it.
Yeah. So I learned essentially to tell a story, and making that into a story, both Alex and I felt way better because I could say, here's part 1, part 2, part 3. Yeah. And Alex could say, okay, where's this going to go? And I'm like, intro, part 2. Like we just kind of put this kind of thing together, and then later down, like I think last week, a few people said, we really appreciate how you guys tell a story and bring in, this tree. And I was like, that's the key. I can't believe it. It took me like probably months and months to figure that out. It got to the point where I was just writing out the entire podcast, at least from my kind of research perspective. And I would type it all out as if I'm talking to Alex. And a few times I would even read verbatim because I had written it out, literally saying, oh, but hold on, comma, Alex, comma. So I had it down to a T, where if any time Alex would like just happen to say something naturally, it would just dovetail perfectly into this next thing. So I think that's really what I learned. And Alex had a lot to do with that because he, as the non-tree expert, is the reason that most people who aren't tree experts kind of like our show. Anyone likes our show because whatever I say, Alex responds with a question that they had, because he's an everyman representation in this kind of instance, which is, in my opinion, the only reason that we're even successful is because Alex has been like, hold on, Casey, that was crazy. Could you say that one more time? And then that helps us communicate better. So I've also maybe learned it's good to have someone else to bounce something off of. Yeah. To make sure that it's what's clear to you is what a professor used to always tell me, not necessarily to everyone else.
No, I totally get that. As a solo podcaster, it's a hard one to be, and I have to have a guest every time. Because me talking to myself lasts about 10 minutes and then gets really boring really fast.
You're telling me, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
But it's like the narrative in a conversation, we always forget that like the conversations we have do follow a narrative format. I'm a journalist by training. And when I ran internships in radio, I would just sit there and drill into these interns that like the conversation you have with this person, this 5-minute conversation needs to hit every like bit of a narrative that you were taught in middle school because that is how everyone consumes content. There is no way that you're sitting there going, I'm going to listen to this conversation that goes absolutely nowhere because I like it. Because no one's going to listen to, a conversation that goes in zero direction, just have a look at, the episodes where I am by myself. I have to, there aren't many. They're just update episodes, and, where, those episodes are, don't have many people who actually listen to them.
Interesting.
And not that I'm mad at all. It's because it's genuinely boring. Like there's no point to listening to someone speak about themselves for 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's a curious thing though, because I've always thought that journalism, if you are a journalist writing about science, that kind of just makes you a science communicator at some point. But the line between journalism and kind of science writing, I've always found to be very, very fuzzy. It depends on, I guess, your perspective,
Oh yeah, exactly. I think that also it kind of depends on how you present the thing. So we have some very famous science communicators here in Australia. You guys have got your own as well in the States that we're all probably know and are aware of. But, these science communicators distinguish themselves away from science journalists, but then science journalists will dabble in science communication. I think especially as we become a little bit more online and as our news organizations get onto short form video content a lot more. I think like at least half the news organizations in this country, not that there's many of them, are on TikTok at the moment.
Wow.
So, compressing a 30-minute interview into a 3-minute kind of snappy, engaging piece is I think part of what science communication itself does really well.
I feel like that's really hard if you have, an hour of content, you have an hour-long story, and you need to make it a 20-minute story, you're suddenly faced with 3,000 decisions.
Yeah.
What to include, what to not include.
What is pertinent to this conversation? What moves from gets you from here to here?
Yeah, and they're just endless combinations.
Yeah.
And I think at a certain point you just kind of have to like go with your gut. Like, where does this feel like it should go?
Yeah.
Because if you really get in the weeds there, you'll be there for days trying to
that's where I'm at, usually dwelling is in those weeds. And like, well, everyone needs to know the tectonic plate movements because that explains all the rest of this.
There are times, Casey, when we're recording an episode and you're getting into something, like you're just getting into a topic, and I know already that I'm going to cut it out.
Yeah,
because I'm like, this isn't quite. I edit as a kind of in my head as we record. I don't know if I've ever told you this.
You have, a few times. Okay. Yeah, which makes me feel good because I'm like, great.
Stop telling me.
I'll just keep going.
It's fascinating when you have the person who's editing the podcast also hosting the podcast, because it's quite clear. You can tell that the way it's recorded, especially when you guest on it, is in the way that they edit. Whereas I know a few people who don't edit their own podcasts. Often they've got a whole production company attached to it and bits and pieces. And when you are editing your own podcast, you often will continue to an awkward stage of a conversation without going, okay, I have to internally edit myself for the sake of the person who's editing, this podcast and has to listen to this incredibly long, awkward pause as I try to figure out how to get out from this end of the conversation to the start of the next.
I think over time, we kind of learn to it's almost Pavlovian in a way. Like we just know when we're getting to a point where we need to get back to the beginning of that sentence and try again,
I think so. Which is, again, just another learning thing about being a science communicator or a communicator really to any point. You know, you have to figure that out, where to stop, where to start.
It's fun.
It is. It's a good time, and I'm glad you're doing the editing, not me. Thanks, Alex.
It's my pleasure. I'm glad you're doing the research, not me.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, everyone's strengths and weaknesses. I love it.
Right?
I'm not the biggest, so Australian rules football is huge down in Victoria. Not the biggest Australian rules football fan. I much prefer NRL, which is like rugby.
Yeah.
So when we have to write the sports reports, I say to my coworker, I'm like, you take the AFL, you take it.
You go
I'll
for
take
it.
everything else. I'll take all the rest of the sport.
Yeah, everything else,
like,
just not
no.
that one.
Yeah, not that one.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Australian rules football. I know I've heard of it, but I don't know.
You got a Yank player in the league.
Do we really?
Yes, I forget his name. He popped up on my... I don't dare to say the word, but he popped up on my Twitter feed over the weekend because he was making comments about the monarchy and everyone got mad.
Oh, of course. Nice.
You know, living in Australia, having to watch the coronation basically live streamed on 7 different TV channels at once.
Oh my gosh.
I think does things to people.
Is this
Yeah.
Mason Cox?
Yes, I think it is Mason Cox.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
He's from Texas, Casey.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, I'll have to watch some Canadian rule or Australian rules football.
Side note,
playing
I don't mean to get
Conover
too
now.
far off. This man is 6'11".
What?
Oh,
Oh my
yeah, you've got to be
God.
told to play AFL. It's
Wow.
Yeah. And he's because he's tall, and then everyone who plays AFL jumps really, really high.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like well above everyone else catching the ball.
Oh, man, he should just
a
play
lot of
basketball,
throwing
poor
around,
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had 2 Australians in the Super Bowl as well. Somehow, as we keep saying, it goes both ways. You
All
know?
right, yeah.
We take one of you, we'll give you one of ours.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. I think the kind of internationality of sports is happening. It's kind of on a lag, I think, with the internet, where the internet opened the world up to a bunch of other kind of more obscure sports in other parts of the world. And now they're getting like a little bit more popular, a little bit more kind of accessible. And so I think there's more people, like I'm seeing more Europeans playing in the National Basketball Association for the United States than I have ever before, which I'm kind of like, hey, this one's pretty good. Like, the guy, Jokic, is Serbian, and he's leading the Denver Nuggets to like the Super Bowl of basketball right now. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good. Now we're getting Americans out playing like soccer, like going for it. And I'm like, nice. Okay, maybe one day we'll be able to compete on a couple other things, but also at the same time, I would be so great to have like the baseballs and basketballs and NFL kind of American football getting other countries so that when they play at these big like international tournaments, you're not just waiting for the American basketball team to just win every time. I like it a little bit more interesting if there's other teams.
You know, I've never excelled at any sport, but I've always had a sneaking suspicion that I would be really good at cricket.
Really?
It is a really accessible sport.
Is
it's
it
one
really?
of those things that we as Australians play a version of what we call backyard cricket, where there's not really any rules, but it is a hell of a lot of fun.
Interesting.
And you can kind of like adjust for like your playing skill, but even then, like just normal like cricket, there are so many kids who play it because it's supposed to be the off-season sport for all the kids who play AFL. So AFL was supposed to be, so you play cricket because cricket, British colony, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then like they're like, well, what do we do in the winter to keep active? So AFL is played on cricket ovals, so that's why you hear,
Gotcha.
This AFL game is played at the Melbourne Cricket Ground and bits and pieces because it is basically a cricket pitch.
Interesting.
Gotcha. I had no idea. I got to do a lot more research on Australian sports. That's what I've learned here today.
Hey, you know what? I bet we can link it back to trees and make a whole episode about it, Casey.
It's going to happen. You watch it.
Yeah. Actually, I have seen, especially up in, say, Papua New Guinea, where they'll play a version of AFL, but there'll be like a tree in the middle of a field or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it's the
so
greatest
good.
thing.
It's incredible.
I love that. It's like, oh, tree's out. So sorry, don't hit the tree. Oh, I think that's so good.
Look, back on the topic of trees.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that was now I'm ruining it, but that was a great segue. Oh, I'm so proud of myself.
It was perfect.
We can't help but point out segues too, Samuel. We feel you.
No. But back on the topic of trees, for you guys, like, will there ever come a point where you run out of trees or tree-related topics to talk
Great
about?
question.
Casey has. Can I indulge a little?
Yes, you may.
Casey has fears about this.
I do.
That I think this is the thing that stresses you out about. I think this is the thing that stresses you out most about our show.
Yeah.
Is that eventually we will just run out of content.
Yes, it's not the tree. There are plenty of trees.
Yes.
There's just not enough topics.
Yes, it's the topic.
Yeah.
I think that we'll be fine, and maybe I feel that way because I don't have to do the work.
Maybe.
No, I don't think we ever will.
Yeah,
We'll figure it out. We do it every week.
We do every week, and there's always some way to pivot, I think, and a way to go more granular. It's another thing I've learned about the beginning versus the end, where there's a topic like, let's say, myrmecology, which is the interaction between ants and plants. If I came up with that in 2001, we would have had a whole topic, a whole show just talking about that.
Right.
But now I've kind of realized, okay, that topic is too big for one episode. And Alex has brought this up lots where it's like, well, this is a great topic, but there's just so much. We have to pare it down somehow. So if there's a way, then ideally we'll find 3 or 4 different trees that all have a very specific kind of relationship with ants.
Yeah.
Different ants doing different things, and we can have like 3 or 4 episodes saying we're going to talk about myrmecology. Myrmecology is this, and then have a really broad subject, and then the next week a different tree with a much more particular aspect of that kind of larger topic. So I think learning to slow things down and talk in very large bits and then make them way more specific helps me spread things out.
Yeah.
And it just makes things more clear, I think.
Yeah, specificity really
Yeah.
makes our show, I think.
Yeah, without being too esoteric, we're already there. So we got to somehow...
I've never known us to have a problem with that.
Hey, thank God. It's good. Yeah, so I don't think so. We're certainly not going to run out of trees. There's 200 and some thousand species of trees.
Yeah.
So if we're only doing about 50 or 48 a year right now, I think we have a couple hundred years before we get there, I think.
And we have a list of trees that people have requested.
Yeah.
And that I feel like that list just doesn't ever get smaller.
It's because I haven't deleted
love that.
any, but yeah.
Oh,
because
well-
we've actually done several of those trees. I
Okay.
just haven't I haven't taken them off, Alex. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but it's a big list. So I
It
think
is.
we'll be fine.
Yeah. So hopefully, and then I think there's always a way for us to add in new perspectives is another thing. So because I'm the one who does most of the research, you hear the Casey version of the story, and there's always another perspective. And it, I think, would be I think we have an option to move a little bit more and maybe do more interviews or bring someone else and say, hey, why don't you tell us about this tree? And then we can, have a larger conversation about it rather than just me presenting these things here or there,
Yeah.
So fingers crossed. I think we're going to be okay, at least until one of us gets burnt out. And then we'll just I don't know, choose one tree and be like, this is the last tree in the world.
Wow.
But that's seems to be pretty far in the future right now.
Actually, really good hypothetical question. If you had to do your last episode, what tree would it be on?
I know.
Ooh. Oh, what would you choose?
Well, our very first tree was the Douglas fir.
Yeah.
And then we just did a kind of a redux. We made another Douglas fir episode.
Yeah.
With all new information and research. So I think the only logical thing to do is for our very last episode to be our third Douglas fir episode.
Okay, and that would be Return of the Cones.
Right. So we have, our first episode was called episode 1.
The Phantom Fir.
Phantom Fir. And then this one we just did is episode 2, Attack of the Cones.
Yeah.
And so I think
It would
the
be-
last one would be Revenge of the Pith.
Yes.
Yeah.
The only thing that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. I assume that I have to agree with that.
But I love circles. I want to close that loop.
That sounds good. Yeah, you can't just end a trilogy with two iterations.
No, never.
That's a good question. I don't know what it would be at, but I'd have to think of some intense symbolism to show. I feel like it would be a tree that either continually reinvents itself or like a tree that's gone extinct. And then we can say, this is the last tree that ever existed. Goodbye.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense.
Hit it really hard. If everyone's crying at the end of the episode, isn't that good?
Sure.
I don't know.
What a great way to measure success. So, for your audience, like, what has been their reactions to your content and the way that your content has changed over the past few years?
It was weird for me to see how much people cared about it right away. We had, and I'm not patting ourselves on the back. All of this early popularity is due to Allie Ward,
with Ologies,
the host of Ologies, and Casey for being on that show. Like, Casey had a bit of a built-in audience, and then Allie really promoted the hell out of us, very kindly. I was surprised that people cared so much, like, right away.
Yeah,
and they would, even the people who sent us emails saying, these episodes are too long, you guys need to edit these down. Even they cared enough to
send an email.
Yeah, to send an email. They want it to be, good for them.
Yeah.
But over time, I don't know. I feel like we have an incredibly strong fan base, strong emotionally. Like they show us a lot of love.
Yeah.
They support us like crazy. That was another surprise.
Yeah, for sure.
How much people want to support the podcast.
Yeah. I would say that it's the way it's kind of the arc that's happened is we've got a lot of responses. In fact, I'm right now going through all of our emails that we've gotten this entire, journey, and I'm rereading some of the old emails that we got. And what I think I've learned is two things. One, everyone has an opinion on a tree, which is half the reason I wanted to do this, because I wanted to tap into that and also provide my opinions. And so I've learned everyone, no matter what you say about a tree, someone's going to have another option or another perspective on it. And often, I guess, whenever we hear about it, it's usually someone either hates what we did or thinks we didn't do a good enough job.
A lot of like, I can't believe you didn't mention.
And that's the other thing I've learned is, with the show at the beginning, like I was saying, we tried to just talk about the tree. We didn't know where we were going, and we would just, say fact 1, fact 2, fact 3, and just kind of move on. And then I realized like we were running out of time to just say everything interesting about a tree. And now we have to pick and choose and editorialize. Like, okay, we're going to talk only about this particular aspect of this tree. Then we'll have to choose a different tree to talk about another aspect that kind of is relational. And we get so many people saying exactly what Alex just said. Like, I can't believe you didn't bring up this thing or that thing. And bless them for being so kind to reach out, but they assume we haven't found that, we didn't know, and they're like, well, you didn't know about this. And it's like, oh no, trust us, we did, we just could not talk about it, so we'll have to do it a different time.
I will also say kind of when you're on the outside of sort of a niche interest hobby like trees, you don't really understand how people could be really passionate about it or have like super strong opinions. Yeah. So kind of a shocker for me is just to see how many people are like so in love with trees. Yeah. This thing that I didn't really even, I didn't know what an arborist was or did, until a couple of years ago. So to find so many people who are not only passionate about trees, but like work with trees, and it's like really close to their hearts, and they have emotional attachments to certain species or even certain specimens. That's been really cool and strange, I think, to see. There are plenty of Caseys out there.
Yeah, it turns out.
There's more of Casey than we thought. No, if there's I always say, if there's one thing you ever do to a podcast, is please just contact us, message us wherever you prefer, email us. I love getting emails from listeners. To the point where I get excited and talk about them to other podcast creators that I've spoken to, because it is just kind of amazing to see that people are listening and are invested in the podcast you're creating. And to realize that you have a community around topics. It was always very fascinating when I first started, because fairly early on I did an episode about doll collecting with my friend Carrie, and that one kind of got a little bit out of control, to the point where I still use it as an example of what a good episode of content capable is, even though it was it's been 2 and a bit years since I recorded that episode. My content's changed a bit, the structure's changed. But it's still this one is perfect.
Gotcha.
Not that, I'm not proud of any of the other episodes I've created.
Sure.
So it's just been so fascinating to see, unexpected points where, the people who listen to your podcast care really deeply about.
Yeah. It's been pretty heartening. I mean, especially, creative people have it so tough, because we have this desire and pain in us to be seen and be appreciated. But then the kind of irony, the sick, cruel irony of the internet is that anybody can reach out to you, the people who appreciate you and the people who don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's been a learning curve to, well, Casey will even say, don't read that email.
Yeah. We do get a few that people are unhappy with something we said or did, or usually just a small thing. It's never the editorial things that we get. Usually we get some good responses. Someone reaches out and says, "Hey, we see what you did. Thanks for doing that." Or "We liked how it happened." It's a lot of times of one particular thing we said, or a decision on structure or how we do something. At the beginning, we tended to eat a few things as a part of the show. We weren't just, casually snacking. And we got a lot of people said, "I hate how you did this," or "It's gone too long." So yeah, it's nice to get those, but I've been working with the city of Portland as a regulator.
Right.
I got so many emails of so many people who are so mad about the decisions that I made that weren't even my decisions. Code said, "Do this," and all I did was say, "Code says you have to do this."
Yeah, Casey's the thick skin of Completely Arbortrary.
Yeah.
And I am the tender heart.
Yeah,
he's hiding behind him.
You're getting tougher. Enough of those emails, and Alex is like, whatever.
Yeah,
it's
true.
But yeah, you got to take the good with the bad. But it's always nice to get more good than bad. And so far, it's been 99 to 1%. Good versus bad, which is really nice. Like you're saying, it's nice when you have people who reach out to you just to say thumbs up. Keep doing that. I love this.
Look, to be honest, I'm even fine with hate. I suppose I've got being someone in the public eye, I cop a bit more of it than a lot of people do. That and the fact that there's a suspicious amount of my personal life online as well now with this podcast.
Yeah.
But even that, to an extent, it's someone cares enough to listen.
Right.
And as much as you might hate it, I'm glad that you're listening.
Right.
The worst part is where someone's mad at you, and we have this in journalism all the time. Someone will knock on our door and go, "I'm mad at you for this article. Why didn't you talk about this in this article?" I'm like, "Well, did you read the article? Because I did mention it in that article." We did a particularly controversial article the other week about a group of people who have started a little bit of a group in town that isn't particularly savory, and that's all I'll say on it. You can go find the article yourself if you know where to look.
We're just going to send an email with our opinion. We're not going to read it.
Yeah. And this group of people knocked on our door the Friday after we send out the paper on a Wednesday. So, a couple of days after, and they're like, we want to talk to you about your article, this hit piece. My editor, I wasn't the one who wrote the article, it was my colleague, but my editor was like, okay, have you read the article? And they're like, well, no. It's like, well, let's read the article first before you start, making opinions about us and our political and moral motivations. Like, I think people often forget that there is like a code of conduct and a set of ethics and rules that most people aspire to in most jobs and positions.
Yeah.
And it's kind of frustrating to watch people forget that consistently.
Yeah, right? And the internet feels like a place that has really fomented that forgetfulness where everything is a source. So you're all, you lower the high standards and you raise the low standards.
Funny, yeah.
And you're like, oh gosh, okay. So that's frustrating.
A big part of kind of the I want to say visual language, but audio language, oral language of our show is irony. And like making a very deadpan joke out of things. We just find that funny, and like it's just a part of the way we make our show. And you'll get the odd person who doesn't get it,
doesn't see it, or takes you way too seriously. I guess journalists don't quite have that that luxury all the time.
You say it was a joke.
Yes. But even then, like to an extent, especially when you end up being in more like opinion or conversational journalism, where you just talk about and you make a joke like that, people, the amount of times, or you make a comment or a pun or something, the amount of times people take offense to it, you just got to develop that thick skin in the end. Like, there's just no point to taking anything personally.
Yeah. I think I've learned to just like, and maybe Casey will like chuckle and roll his eyes at this because maybe this isn't what I'm projecting, but I have to an extent learned to just like put my head down and keep making the show the way I want to make the show.
You have. I think you have.
Yeah. You just must.
Yeah.
If I think like I hate this fucking phrase, any content creator, everybody gets to comment on your shit. And I think it's really easy if you're like a sensitive person to like take people's opinions too seriously and start letting it dictate your work. Yeah. We have not done that proudly.
Yeah. I think, Hassan Minhaj, one of the comedians who was on The Daily Show for a long time, he had a good opinion. He was on a podcast that also did video, and he was a guest, and he was talking about the difference between an artist and a creator, and kind of the fact that a creator just feeds an algorithm, whereas the artist puts something out there, then goes and cries about it afterwards, whether or not anyone is paying attention to it.
That's perfect.
And I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was a really good point to kind of make that distinction. And I was like, thank you, because I'd never thought of myself as a content creator. Never thought of myself as an artist necessarily either, but it's that kind of interesting place where it's like that Venn diagram where everything kind of overlaps and intersects is where I think the really good work is, the best work, where you're creating content, but not for the sake of creating content. You're an artist, but not without an eye towards what you're trying to get across.
Yeah, making something genuine, but that is also well loved and popular. That's that sweet spot that we're trying to hit. We try every episode.
It's so hard to get
isn't it?
Because you just like even in like, and it's not just like podcast creating, it's all aspects of creating content. Like even the dreaded content creator is probably aiming for the same thing. And it just reminds me, and I hate the fact that it reminds me of a Bible verse of all things, but it does remind me of like it's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than for someone to get into heaven or something like that. There's some quote like that. Like everyone is aiming for this same really specific, really small part. And And so we're all really trying hard. So it's going to be so easy to get something wrong,
Right.
and stumble.
Yeah.
Not that means that we are, we can't content create anymore. We can't, engage with communities anymore. It just means that we've got to try to keep being better and better.
Yeah, I think that's the goal. And especially with a show that comes out weekly for however many years, you have a lot of practice.
You do. You get good at it, and you
it becomes a
enjoy it.
well-oiled machine at that point.
Yeah.
For sure.
Hopefully.
And then sometimes it's not.
Yeah, we're still working on it. Sometimes we forget to oil it, I think.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like we're hand cranking our podcast, and other times it feels like a Tesla.
Yeah, right. That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah. It's definitely it's a fascinating aspect of it all. It's just and you're totally right. Sorry. The analogy is so good, I'm lost for words. But it is really quite fascinating to watch everyone aim for a similar goal. And the different approaches, as you said, making content for content's sake, making, content that's going to both satisfy you personally, but also, be appealing to audiences.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when you say it like that, it sounds impossible.
Yeah, it does. But hey, some of them do it, and ideally, you can get a little bit of that because some people I think they're just good. They hit on some cultural chord, and it's just resonated, and people are just about it. So. Yeah, fingers crossed we'll find that chord, or at least we'll keep plucking it. We found a good one. We're happy with the sound that it's making, I suppose, to carry the metaphor.
Good way to say it.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on Content K-pop. It's been a blast.
Hey, of course. Thanks very much for having us. And we're happy that we got connected.
Yeah, it's been amazing to chat, and I feel like we could probably chat for like another 2 or 3 hours.
Easy, absolutely.
Except I probably think we need like a round of drinks. Or something.
Yeah, we'll have to go calm ourselves down, get ourselves all of our 3rd or 4th coffees today.
Yeah, something to snack on, something to drink. I think it'd be perfect. But where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, arbortrarypod.com. It's ARBORTRARY pod.
Yep.
And then any like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Spreaker.
Yeah, technically.
Any podcast app you have, we're on there.
Yeah. You can also find us on Instagram. It's Arbortrary Pod, at Arbortrary Pod. And we're all over the internet right now. We're trying to get as much stuff out there as we can so anyone can find us and interact, whether you want to read an article about the tree, you want to listen to us talk about it, or you just want to get cones of cone stickers from really cool trees around the world. You can find us on Patreon and join up there.
Yeah, I think we're at the point where you can even misspell our name and we'll still show up.
Oh, fingers crossed.
That SEO optimization.
That's how you know you've made
That
it,
is.
right?
It's exactly how we know that it made it when Google doesn't underline arbitrary saying you misspelled this word.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. Yeah. And you guys personally, did you want to share your own personal social medias?
Sure.
Yeah, I am Clap for Trees on Instagram and everywhere else right now. Yeah, if you want to Venmo me, you can at me on that too.
That's Clap with 2 P's and the number 4.
Correct. Thank you, Alex.
I'm at Alex Crowson, CROWSON. And can I shout out? I have a new record.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Find me on Spotify, Alex Crowson. My new record. I say new, it was last year. It's called Sorry I Missed You.
Newest record.
And I would love for anybody to listen to it.
Yeah, playing a show actually. You're playing backup with our friend Kyle this week, right?
Yeah. If anybody is in Portland on May 27th, come on by and listen to some music.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. It comes at perfect timing as well. It's just a week and a bit away from when this podcast is coming out.
Wonderful.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Awesome. And has there been anything you've been watching, listening to, reading that you wanted to plug?
Ooh.
Succession season 4.
We are, yeah. I'm just about done with Succession season 3.
I'm so far behind.
Oh, you got to get there.
Yeah.
With Sarah Snook, Australia's own.
Yes, that's right.
I know. She gives an Australian energy. I'm only like I've only just finished season 1 because, and it feels very blasphemous as a journalist to have not been watching Succession because it is literally just about the Murdochs.
It is pretty much.
Australia's least favorite export. But it's just like, it is kind of amazing the Australian energy she brings to a role that, you know, is quite clearly American.
Wow, fascinating.
Yeah, I'll have to pick up on that because I had no idea that she was anything but an American English speaker. Her accent is so good.
It's perfect.
So
it's the attitude. It's like when there's that screen cap of her putting the finger up with her face, and it's like, that is such an Australian way
that
of,
is so good. Yeah. Let's see. I think that's the only thing that I'm watching right now. There's a writers' strike in Hollywood, or I guess for the Union of Writers up in, at least in the United States. So I'm in solidarity with them. I think everyone who does the hard part of art that doesn't get enough credit needs to get that credit, at least in forms of money.
Yeah.
But also,
oh yeah, exactly.
Usually I watch SNL, but because of the writer's strike, no SNL's come up, so I can't watch my dumb comedy right now.
Of all things, and this will be a little bit of a bonus, go and follow Adam Conover. He used to be our college humor and dropout writer. I don't know whether he still is, but he's been doing a lot of coverage of the picket lines, at least on the West Coast.
Oh, has he? Okay.
And if you haven't, go and join your union.
Yeah, right. I haven't even thought about joining a union.
We got to get on that podcasting.
Yeah,
union.
I guess I never thought we've made it, so maybe we have, right?
Union.
Potentially.
Where we'll strike Spotify because that's something that works.
Yes, yeah. We'll get all the rest of our big podcast names on there and be like, no more Spotify, and they'll be like, actually, I think I'm gonna drop out of the union. Thanks. Yeah.
Of all things, the union that I'm theoretically a part of had like a really cheap student membership, and because you had to pay in a year installment each, I'm still theoretically a student.
Nice. Well done.
I'm like, I cannot wait until I have to renew my membership so I can like go, I'm a full-time journalist.
Like, I've done it now. Nice. I think I don't know that I'm listening to too much new stuff right now. I've been listening to a lot of like playlists over and over again, but I think the band that I'm consistently and constantly into, there's two of them. One is Man, who's a band from Philadelphia via Los Angeles, I think. And just one of the, just so much fun to listen to. Their last 3 albums are amazing. And then another band that unfortunately broke up this last year called Every Time I Die. They're a hardcore metal band, and I love them. They're too much fun to listen to. And if you're into the punk side of metal and just want to get your energy out, can't recommend them enough.
You know what I say about them?
What?
It finally happened.
What? Every Time I Die. Alex, I don't get it. You see,
I think it's fitting to end the podcast with a bad joke that goes over Casey's head.
It happens so often.
Right over Casey's head. Before we get finished, you can find me at sam.the.journalist on Instagram and on TikTok. And while the podcast is no longer on Twitter, I still am at samobjournalist, where, I don't know, there's a hot take every now and then. I just exist there. It's been fun. I observe most of the time.
Did you get your blue check mark?
No, never ever did.
All right, good. So you didn't lose anything here.
No, I didn't lose anything. And luckily Elon Musk is like, nah, he's not important enough to get.
Okay, perfect.
to get one.
It helps neither am I.
Of all things this week, I'm going to plug The Hunger Games because I have never read or watched it. And my housemate got me watching the 4 movies a couple of weeks ago, and I've just started reading the first book via audiobook. So it is, I'm really experiencing it for the very first time. Nice. And it's been very fascinating.
Very cool.
I appreciate that because I'm usually that person who, 15 years later is like, have you guys heard of the Red Hot Chili Peppers? This band's crazy. Like, oh my God. So I'm with you so hard right there.
Yeah, no, it's been kind of very fascinating to experience for the first time right as this new movie is like being in the throes of being marketed out the wazoo. So
There's a new Hunger Games?
it's the movie adaptation of the book Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Oh, yeah.
I wanna say.
Oh,
Wow.
okay.
And at least my TikTok feed, half of it is just analysis of the Hunger Games.
Gotcha.
At this point, these creators just need to be paid because they're doing the marketing.
They're just
for
doing it
Hunger
all.
Games.
They're so happy. The marketers are just like, don't say anything. Just
Yeah.
let it keep going.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming on Content and Capable. It's been an absolute blast.
Thank
It
you so
has
much,
been.
Samuel.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, and we'll hopefully talk again sometime soon.
Content and Capable was recorded, edited, and produced by Samuel O'Brien. You can follow the podcast at Content, the letter N, Capable on Instagram, and you can find it on Facebook. You can also send an email through to contentandcapablepod@gmail.com with any of your thoughts, queries, or concerns. The best way to support the podcast is to leave a review on your preferred podcatcher so more people can hear the podcast. The art was done by Opia, and the music was written, edited, and produced by Jason Hilton. Content and Capable is proud to be a part of the Deus Ex Media Network, where you can find a podcast for any of your nerdy interests.
We are
Not the crystal gems.
We are the Bits,
The bits, the bits, the bits.
a Steven Universe review podcast
Celebrating the 10th anniversary.
of a show that's very near and dear to our hearts,
So get ready to cry with us
and try our best not to sing.
as we rewatch one of the gayest shows of the 2010s,
New episodes coming out to you every Friday.
featuring your favorite host, Charlie.
And Robert.
Thank you for listening to Content and Capable. Don't forget to rate and review, and we'll see you next week for another episode.
Deus Ex Media.